Great. It looks like we have a quorum today that we could begin. Good afternoon and welcome back to BCforward's monthly webinar series. My name is Patrick Wagner. I've worked with BCforward since 2014, and I am currently a senior program consultant on our digital strategies and transformation team. Central to my role is the introduction of new ways of working in high-performing teams, but a critical success factor to any program implementation is the support of a guiding coalition, a set of leaders who my colleagues and I work with to empower in order to become the visionaries of change. Today's webinar will provide a glimpse into what we at BCforward call SAFe for Executives. We'll work to convey the importance of SAFe, that is the Scaled Agile Framework, for folks in our audience who are either interested in working in this framework or even that may just be looking for more information about SAFe itself. If you are not an executive, this discussion is still aimed to be as inclusive as possible, and please don't hesitate to drop any questions that you may have along the way in the chat as they arise. I should be displaying today's agenda. Again, the focus is on core competencies of scaled agile implementation. We'll provide an introduction into SAFe itself, but probably an appropriate place to begin would be to introduce today's panel. Again, my name is Patrick Wagner, and I'll hand it to Adrienne Morrissey to introduce herself.
Thanks, Patrick. Hey, everybody, and thank you for joining. I'm Adrienne Morrissey, and I've been with BCforward for about 5.5 years now. And so I'm working as a SAFe Scrum Master in that space and for a couple of the different teams, and then also participating in their LACE, so their Lean-Agile Center of Excellence, to be a participant there. So excited to talk to you guys today about what I've learned, and thanks again for joining.
Thank you, Adrienne. Ray?
Hi, I'm Ray Connor. I'm an advisor for Enterprise Agility. I'm a SPC 5. And I am currently serving as a RTE on Shonda's solution train.
And without further ado, Shonda.
Like the Shonda.
Hello, everyone. Again, thanks for joining. My name is Shonda Craig. I've been with BCforward for about 1.5 years now, working in the transformation space. I serve as an RTE as well as STE for our transformation. And so I look forward to sharing some information with you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Shonda. And last, but certainly not least, Mr. Jeff Hensley.
Hey, sorry, Patrick, I just joined. Are we just introducing ourselves?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. So hello, everyone. My name is Jeff Hensley. I am currently a senior agility consultant with BCforward. I've spent a lot of my Agile career working with engineering groups, product groups, both as an application engineer, and then later on as a Scrum Master. More recently, I'm working at the release train level as a release train engineer, and really focusing on getting good feature flow and good feature definition out of our product groups.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm very proud to moderate today's webinar among my esteemed colleagues of SAFe program consultants in the BCforward space. I'll start today's discussion by welcoming you all to the software age, an interconnected real-time world in which every industry is dependent upon technology, and every organization, at least in part, is a software company. To remain competitive, enterprises need to digitally transform their operations, their business solutions, and their customer experience. The larger challenge, however, in many enterprises is that their current business models, their organizational hierarchy, their managerial framework, and their technology infrastructure can't keep up to pace with the rapid change that's required to remain competitive. Our discussion today is about competing in the age of software. The strategists of this new age, some of which became the creators of the Scaled Agile framework itself, have most certainly been inspired by some new works in the field, including Dr. Mick Kirsten's new book, Project to Product, that's mentioned here. Studying technological trends, Kirsten concludes that those who master large-scale software delivery will define the economic landscape of the 21st century. And that's a bold statement. But when you look at the combined revenue of tech giants, you'll understand that the economics of the world have changed dramatically. And as means to meet this rapid pace of change, we introduce SAFe. We'll talk about the idea of where the Scaled Agile framework comes from. And let's dive into it. What I'll present is a historical slide of the 5 technological revolutions. Jeff, do you mind presenting these?
Sure, once it all loads in there. So there is a lot to unpack when we start looking at some of the past technological revolutions and the different new technologies that were made available to the general public and allowed corporations and companies to take advantage of those new technologies. Just for reference, age of steam and railways, companies that were positioned close to railroads generally had better success, right, in getting their products to market and also getting raw materials in to process them and manufacture some value add product. So when we look at kind of where we're at today with the age of software and digital assets, what this slide is getting at is that there is a installation period where technology is introduced and companies can either embrace that technology or they can try to survive without it, which normally does not happen. And, we think of a company like Blockbuster, right? Blockbuster and Netflix have the same, value, right, that they're bringing to customers, home video. But Blockbuster was unable to take advantage of the digital revolution, right, and digital transformation, and they find themselves out of business. So when we're thinking about our current technological revolution, it's also important to think about, not only, mastering that digital asset strategy, but also examining your managerial frameworks, right? Workers today, right, especially digital focused workers, are not expected to be treated the same as someone, who was, on the railroad in the 1870s, right? So when we think about some of our management theory that came up in the late 19th, early 20th century, and how organizations were formed, right, around kind of that assembly line type approach with replaceable workers, right, and replaceable positions. It's important to understand that may not translate as well as you move into more of a digital future and more of a age of software and digital development.
Very much so. Thanks, Jeff. And we're very much so in a turning point for this age of software and digital transformation. I'd like to introduce the world's leading framework for business agility, that being the Scaled Agile framework. It integrates the power of Lean, Agile, and DevOps into a comprehensive operating system that helps enterprises thrive in the digital age by delivering innovative products and services faster, more predictably, and with higher quality. And there are some metrics to support the reason why this is the world's leading framework for business agility. Ray, would you like to speak to some of these metrics for SAFe at a glance?
Yeah, boy, this really impressed me the first time I saw it. I knew SAFe was big, but I didn't really realize how big it is. So 700,000 people that have already been through the various different trainings here. We've got 400 partners, including BCforward, across the global landscape. And the beauty of this is really that this acceptance of the SAFe process is just really impressive and a testament to the ability of SAFe to help your enterprise apply scale.
I've seen it myself, right? I mean, it's incredible to see organizations transformed, and it goes without saying, but SAFe has produced dramatic improvements in time to market, in employee engagement, higher quality, and higher customer satisfaction. It creates cultures that are more productive, more rewarding, and more fun. So let's dig into the Scaled Agile framework. What we'll introduce are the 7 core competencies of business agility, which I'll display in the following information radiator. There are, in fact, 7 core competencies, and in order to achieve true business agility, an organization will require a significant degree of expertise in all 7 of them. While each core competency can truly deliver value independently, they are also truly interdependent in that true business agility can be present only when an enterprise achieves a meaningful mastery of all 7 of these competencies, that being enterprise solution delivery, agile product delivery, team and technical agility, lean agile leadership, a continuous learning culture, organizational agility, and lean portfolio management. And this is important. I feel like Scaled Agile was deliberate in putting the customer at the center of these 7 core competencies because centric to the framework itself is customer centricity, empathizing with our end users in order to implement increments of value that will be not only relevant to the market, but also produce tremendous outcomes for our end users is the driving force behind these 7 core competencies. So let's dig in. How about Lean Agile Leadership?
Boy, I think this one is the most important one, and it forms the basis. Everything else sits on top of this as you have that beautiful fan that went out with all the competencies. If you don't have leaders that have the proper mindset and are not modeling the behaviors of the manifesto of SAFe, you will have just a bunch of teams running around doing pretty good work, but certainly not scaled to the point of being competitive in the coming years. So again, the leadership, I think, is the most important one here, and something that every leader should be able to do is have that basic mindset and then communicate that mindset by leading that change, and then really by leading by example. And that is, you would think that would be easy, but it's not. That means going to meetings. That means being discussing SAFe, discussing the manifesto, being a learner, growing your skill set, your knowledge, so that you can help others do the same thing. And also part of this is being able to be a servant leader and decentralize a lot of those decisions.
Yeah, I feel like servant leadership is absolutely foundational, right, Ray? This competency really describes how the leaders drive and sustain organizational change and operational excellence, right? And I feel one of our talents as BCforward change agents is by empowering those individuals and teams to reach their highest potential, all driven by a foundational lean set of lean agile leaders.
And I think SAFe provides some toolkits to help leaders become the lean agile leader. Almost prescriptive and something that you can learn and apply to your organization. Demonstrated artifacts and processes that make a difficult task much easier.
It's a very powerful toolkit, right? And I feel like we all have some demonstrated experience in working with and setting up lean agile centers of excellence, where we can house that set of visionaries who can guide the change, right? And that's been very profound to see that mechanism and that organization be built up literally from the ground up in order to drive the change.
And if I could add a little bit on lean agile leadership, I think one very important part of being a complete lean agile leader is not only living that lean agile mindset, right, is having that growth mindset, but also how do you incentivize your employees, right? How do you incentivize those that work for you to also adopt that lean agile mindset, because you may be in a situation where conceptually, the lean agile mindset makes a lot of sense. People are excited for it, but if they're not incentivized to adopt that, or they're being incentivized to work in a way that may not mesh well with that new lean agile mindset, you may find adoption problems, because you may be asking someone to do something that could affect a performance review or affect an SLA or an OLA. So I think it's very important to understand when we're asking new practitioners and new employees are going to get involved in becoming lean and acting and being more agile, is like, are they being incentivized to do so as well, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm going to do what I'm incentivized to do, whether that's learning a new skill, pushing for a new role, right? And then also making sure once individuals are in those roles, what does the career path look like in a lean, agile enterprise as well? I think that's something that could be looked at more upfront when you're considering digital transformation.
Thanks, Jeff. I agree with that. I mean, one thing that we like to lead with is with empathy, right? We say sort of informally, we meet teams where they're at. And in order to coach to a future state, we need to both understand the current state as well as those mechanisms in order to get us there.
Yeah, Patrick, I'll piggyback off of that. So, rarely do we come to implement SAFe to a team that is brand new, right? So teams exist already. We have to meet them where they're at, and then allow them to do the job we've taught them how to do. So that's where the leaders come in, because once leadership can embody the principles and values and have that lean agile mindset, they can help us organize and then see if it's working and reorganize, right? They have the authority to actually do that. They also have the authority to remove policies and procedures that don't make sense anymore. So, very, very important to meet the team where they're at and then use leadership to organize and allow those team members to do what they need to do.
Good point, Adrian. Let's talk about those teams. So the second core competency is team and technical agility. Shonda, tell us why.
I would love to, coming off of mute.
Thank you, Shonda.
Team and technical agility is really important. I know Ray spoke earlier about the whole leadership level and that being the foundation. Well, it's not a top down or a bottom up. They meet each other in the middle when it comes to applying SAFe. So I'm going to flip this around just a little bit. So in order really for organizations to have the ability, I'm going to say survive first in this digital age and then thrive. They need to be able to deliver that solution to our customer and make sure that we can accommodate their needs. And in order to do that, we have these agile teams or these agile teams of teams that actually execute against that business solution to deliver the value that our customers are looking for. So it's very, very key in order to actually be able to be successful and continue in our business model. So this particular competency actually covers a couple of areas. We just spoke about the agile teams, where there's several roles in the agile team that have certain responsibilities in order to be able to work cohesively together and deliver the value to our customer. One of the items I have a lot of passion about is built-in quality, because when does quality start? It's a myth to think that quality starts when we go to testing. Quality actually starts at the very inception of the idea and the requirement or the ask. So as long as we have our quality starting there and it goes throughout the process as we build into our continuous delivery pipeline, then we can see really the value and the output coming in. So I have a very passionate spot in my heart for built-in quality. We want our teams to be able to take a look at an item or take a look at a requirement that comes in and then be able to know what is done. What does success look like? If we don't start at the very inception of that, then we're pretty much throwing quality out the window and behind us. And where are we? Then we're waterfall. So that's where SAFe comes in, and that's where some of the power is. When we spoke about the team of teams, then we're talking about actually organizing around value. So we actually have these agile release trains that help us to execute and deliver that value. So unlike the hierarchical structure that we've been used to in the pre-digital age, and we're trying to get away from, right? We have this network that actually helps us to organize around value. So it reduces those silos, breaks those silos down, so then that we have a cohesive group. We have business, we have technologists, we have architects, we have folks who are actually going to be maintaining and supporting these solutions that we build, all working together to plan and see it through to fruition.
And I think that's important, right, Shonda? In order to remain competitive, teams not only need to be both predictable, but they need to be organized and structured in a way that permits the flow of work through the team itself. Hierarchical structures or managerial frameworks of just won't permit that. It's important for us to go in, understand the future state, and break down those silos that may have worked in a previous methodology, but serve as somewhat of a roadblock in order for teams to be working efficiently and be delivering value.
Patrick, I think that one of the things that need to be pointed out here is your agile teams are really scrum teams. So if you already have scrum teams or Kanban teams, they can be very easily moved into an agile release train based on a value stream. But I think the teams then see this ability to find those dependencies easily. And SAFe is built in events and ceremonies to allow that to happen, and not only make that coordination to coordinate the dependencies, the risks, but also be able to improve the processes and troubleshoot various different things. So it's really a beautiful process. The process is a program increment, basically a PI, which the Agile Release Train supports.
We often joke that there isn't much magic to SAFe except for PI planning, right? And even in a virtual environment where we've all been working for the past very long 12 months, we have seen a very profound and valuable quarterly planning activity, a cadence-based planning activity where teams get together at the Agile Release Train level. They show off their team and technical agility, and they make commitments that they know that they can make based on their capacity to deliver solutions and their ability to work with their colleagues in an unsiloed environment. Thanks, Ray, and thank you, Shonda. Okay, we've covered the leaders. We've covered team and technical agility. Let's talk about product delivery itself. Why Agile product delivery?
So Agile product delivery and more product delivery in general, right? That's what pays the bills, right? That's what most of us are here to do, is deliver a good a product or a service to an end user or customer, right? So why? It's because it keeps the lights on, right? So I think Scale does a really good job of framing this as a competency, putting some guardrails around how you approach the concept of Agile project delivery. And it also gives you some really good best practices for the cadence in which your teams will, start to build and deliver. Customer centricity, again, is popping up, right? Because an Agile product delivery is a pull method, right? We want the customers to pull the features and functionality out of our teams, right? We don't want to, and sometimes it does work, but we don't want to, make a habit of, trying to predict what customers want, right? Because if you have a, 10 to 18 month build cycle, those needs may have changed, or the environment could have changed in that time. So what Agile product delivery really focuses on is creating a development cadence, right? So most places use iterations of 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks, we want to have a potentially shippable increment of our product, right? So we want to have a value add opportunity at every 2 weeks, right? And if we look at the customer centricity of that value should be very inherent to our customers, whether they're internal customers or external customers. The customer has needs and they should pull those through our organization. When we get into some more advanced topics on Agile product delivery, we talk about develop on cadence. So that's that every 2 weeks, we're going to have a new increment or a new bit of functionality that we could deliver. You know, we talk about program increment planning, right? Every 10 to 12 weeks, we want to have a larger amount of work ready. But when we talk about release on demand, what we're saying is that as soon as that code is available, right, and has been tested and verified to work, we're going to put that code into production, and we're going to let the business decide when that functionality and who that functionality needs to be turned on for. Right, so we're developing at a set cadence, and we're releasing when the customers need that value, right? So we can maximize the amount of value we're delivering to those customers. And then looking at the DevOps and continuous delivery pipeline, most of scaled framework is based around the concepts of continuous exploration, continuous integration, and continuous deployment, and how all those concepts feed one another, right? Because when one stops, right, one continuous exploration stops, you'll start to notice a bottleneck. And the scaled framework does a really good job of kind of explaining what each of those areas are focused on, and then also how to involve those groups, right, at a regular cadence so that they're talking, and then what to look for if one is starting to fail, right? If we're not continuously integrating, how do we know that, right? What will start to surface? So why Agile product delivery is because we're all here to deliver, and doing it in an Agile way, at least in my experience, has been always a much more pleasurable adventure than kind of shooting from the hip.
An adventure indeed. And I think Jeff brought up something important, right? Although sort of tried and true planning phases within waterfall methodologies may produce an implementation plan that is produced with great confidence and is reflected of a singular point in time. The fact of the matter is when that solution is developed, validated, and delivered over a period of 12 to 18 months, the solution context may have may have changed in a way that render either the solution altogether obsolete or may have leaders questioning their significant investment in developing the solution itself. Agile product delivery allows a cadence-based development cycle in that both our leaders and our teams can begin to inspect and adapt based on feedback, based on market rhythms or other factors which would otherwise be sort of disregarded in a non-Agile framework.
Yes, I agree with you. One of the things that I appreciate as well when we talk about the Agile product delivery is that we continue to go through this cycle. We converge and diverge. We take a look at everything that we're doing and say, is this desirable? Is it feasible? Is it viable? Is it sustainable? So as we start taking a look at those items and we start taking a look and digging into the heart and the mind of our customer, then it helps us to measure these items and see if they're really going to track and deliver that sustainable value that we're looking to give to our customer.
And Patrick, one of the things to point out here is one of the bases that SAFe has adopted, because they're constantly adding new ideas, new ways of doing things, is DevOps, and DevOps is so important to SAFe now. And again, the toolkits, the ability to, once you get involved with SAFe, with the certifications and all, that leads you through the process of how to develop your DevOps, how you as an organization will work.
Right, Ray, gone are the days that we throw a unit of work over the fence.
That's right.
Handle to ops folks, right? And sort of breaking down that silo or that major fence, although sort of Herculean, is pretty profound in its nature. Cool. Enterprise solution delivery. Why, Ray?
Wow, this is a big one, because the nice thing about SAFe is that most organizations have touched on to Agile with Scrum teams or maybe Kanban or some type of flavor along that line, and seen the success that it brings. So the idea is you scale, you'll move up to the next level, which could be a program or portfolio. But the beauty of SAFe is that it gives you a roadmap. It gives you the ability to deliver at the enterprise level a solution, an overall solution, and it allows the leaders of that enterprise to know that what their vision for the future is being followed all the way down to the, if you will, the developer or the tester. So it really is a phenomenal system that SAFe provides. And one of them, we talked a little bit about it, is a solution train. So the nice thing about a solution train is that there are built-in ways on how to coordinate with vendors that may not be either Agile, Scrum, or have the slightest idea what SAFe is. But there is a roadmap, and there are methods and procedures on how to incorporate, making sure that the vendor teams and all the teams on that solution train bring the value in the quickest, the right value, if you will, for the enterprise.
I know that panelists and some members of the viewing party may agree that coordinating trains and suppliers, although somewhat complex, is pretty valuable once we unlock the potential of that strategic alignment.
And those suppliers, you could, if you're still transitioning with waterfall teams or waterfall projects, they can be treated as suppliers as a method. So the nice thing about SAFe is, again, obviously the Agile Lean focus, but allows for organizations that have not gone 100% is to bring in those still valuable waterfall processes and projects.
And this isn't phase gated, right? This is a continual evolution of live systems. I think that this ensures that both the development pipeline and the large systems themselves support the continuous delivery of value both during and after the release into the field. And that's sort of that strategic alignment around a common mission is truly, I think, the value that we unlock when we introduce the idea of solution delivery, the idea of a solution train in that coordination. Okay, folks, the next core competency digs into portfolio management, incorporating ideas of lean into that management process itself. Adrian, why LPM?
Yeah, so traditional portfolio management just wasn't built for this age of digital disruption that we spoke of earlier. I mean, things are changing all the time. Customers' needs are changing, and there is a great amount of pressure on enterprises to deliver quickly, but in a world of uncertainty. And so SAFe introduces this concept of lean portfolio management, kind of with 3 different pieces to help organizations, just be agile in their portfolio planning. So the first is around strategy investment funding. This is where the magic happens, right? This is where you really get the portfolio aligned and funded to meet those business targets. So this group of people, the enterprise executives, the business owners, and the enterprise architects are continuously working together to identify the business targets and make sure those are funded in the portfolio, and we're organizing around that value that could be delivered. The next one here for Agile portfolio operations, this is where that operational excellence comes from. So this is identifying areas of improvement, that continuous, just continuously improving everything that you're doing in your operational area, and really decentralizing execution. So the Agile PMO, or the LACE, the Lean Agile Center of Excellence, is really focused in this area. Another piece over on the right-hand side that helps with this is setting up communities of practice for your RTEs and your SMEs, your Scrum Masters, to really share learnings and, and constantly improve on what they're doing. And then the last piece is the lean governance. So again, you've got that PMO group, the enterprise architects, and your business owners. And this is where the responsibility for managing spending, auditing, forecasting those future expenses, and identifying the metrics around all that's happening is all within the lean governance.
Adrian, this is the topic that I get most excited about in SAFe, because this is something they've added, lean portfolio management, in the recent revisions to SAFe. And this answers the question of if you're an agilist and you're using Scrum teams, is how do you get the right work into your backlog? How do you know you're doing the right thing? And the beauty of this is with LPM, it takes it from the enterprise level, the strategic theme level, and it brings it down in a beautiful process down to what the developer is doing. I teach LPM, it's a certification, and this is the class that most people enjoy. The light bulb goes on, and there is excitement in this class, particularly when they're introduced to the participatory budgeting portion of it. And it is like, wow, why can't we do that? And there's always this, I'm going to go take this back. I'm going to go take this back. So the excitement that I hear in my students is the same excitement I had the first time I went through this.
Thanks, Ray.
Ray, I'm glad you brought it up. I was hoping someone would hint on participatory budgeting. Do you mind sharing from a strategy and investment funding perspective why participatory budgeting is a little different than traditional methodologies?
Just makes so much sense. It really does.
There you have it. It's decentralized decision-making, right? Folks that really are the knowledge workers have some say or some influence on how an organization will invest in a future state. And that's pretty profound.
There's a toolkit that takes you through that and allows you to take your organization through that, and training and artifacts and spreadsheets. It's just videos. It's almost like turnkey operation for this. I really like this LPM. I think SAFe did a great job at including this.
I do too, Ray. Ray and I have a lot in common, but our sort of fascination with LPM is one of those things. All right, organizational agility.
All right.
Why?
Yeah, I'll speak to this one as well. I mean, it goes so much with the one before about just the constant change in our world today. And so we have to also organize around that value. That's the most important part, right? So we're not looking anymore at an individual's value based on their functional skills. This is around, the value has to be around business outcome and organizing around that. All right, so the three pieces here, first one around lean thinking people and agile teams. So this is where it's important to get everybody involved that's going to be involved in that solution delivery trained, so that they have the right knowledge and they can embody those values, principles, and practices of lean and agile. So you see there, this is where they really learn all the fundamentals behind the House of Lean, the SAFe principles, and the Agile manifesto, so that they can just work each of those throughout their day-to-day. The next piece here is lean business operations. And so this is about understanding, mapping, and continuously improving any processes. So what are your business processes? What can you cut out? What doesn't make sense in this new world? And so, really just having a lean mindset around those business processes. And last here is around strategy agility. And so this is the ability and then also the adaptability needed to just understand where that change is coming from in our market, and be able to quickly change. So this is about teams that can expect and support change. We know change is hard, but that's why this framework exists, is because of the ever-changing environment. And so the more we can be expecting and supporting of that, I think then the better our strategy is.
Yep, Adrian brings up a good point, right? We can empower our lean agile leaders to be the visionaries of change, and we can coach our teams to become, increase their aptitude in technical agility. with the end goal being unlocking this strategic agility, the ability of an organization as a whole to be able to pivot from situations that would otherwise impede them from making progress. COVID comes to mind, right? Those organizations that have gone in this agile framework should rest on the value of the framework itself and the ability to inspect their market, identify what are those absolutely critical, foundational, valuable items that need to be delivered to the customers, so that no matter what hindrance and capacity may be impacting the teams, they are still delivering value to their end users. That's pretty profound, and I've seen it myself. Okay, another personal favorite of mine, something that we touched on a little bit with organizational agility, is a culture of continuous learning. I know why it's important, Shonda, but let's share with our viewers why continuous learning culture is so important. Shonda may be sitting on mute. No worries, I can take this one. In order to thrive in the current climate, organizations must evolve, right, into adaptive engines of change, powered by a culture of fast and effective learning at all levels. Learning organizations not only leverage collective knowledge and experience and sort of the broader ecosystem, but they have learning points and inspection points built into their framework, right? The continuous learning culture, it describes a set of values and practices that encourage individuals and the organization as a whole to continually increase knowledge, competence, performance, and innovation. It's achieved by truly becoming a learning organization, committing to relentless improvement, promoting a culture of innovation through hosting innovation events or even hackathons to uncover new ideas. So let's talk about the learning organization itself. Employees at every level are learning and growing so that the organization can transform and adapt to an ever-changing world. Fostering an innovation culture. Employees are encouraged and empowered to explore and implement creative ideas that enable future value delivery. And this one may be sort of controversial when the stakes are high or when folks are working in a regulated environment. However, as agents of change, what we look to uncover is small incremental points of innovation. We do that through innovative people. We encourage to go on Gemba walks and go see the solution in the context. We support experimentation and feedback. We pivot without mercy or guilt. We have innovation riptides, right? Hackathons or innovation events. And it really hosts this idea of relentless improvement. That being that every part of the enterprise focuses on continuously improving its solutions, products, and processes. I wholly agree in the idea that truly one of the most valuable concepts in the Agile framework is the idea of feedback. And if we're not receiving feedback, there is no way that we can relentlessly improve. However, when the coin's on the other side of the coin, it is incumbent upon us as change agents to respond to that feedback in a way that makes the process more sustainable and in a way that gives more confidence to those folks who are not only working but thriving within this new framework.
Patrick, I think one of the things that SAFe does well is they do exactly this. They are a learning organization, and they go out and bring in the current thought process, thought leadership, and where it applies, they put it into SAFe. Now, what that causes us as SPCs is that we have to go through and update our lesson plans because we're going from 5.0 to 5.1, but they live this. The other thing I love about SAFe is you go through their training, they reference the authors, they reference the books. And the current book I'm reading is the one that Patrick recommended. the topography and part of the team learning. I use that with my Scrum teams now when something comes up. So I'm learning about halfway through the book and applying something that's SAFe recommended. So, you know, they do what they say, and that's what I really think is unique about what SAFe is. So they're taking this idea, this business idea, technical idea, and they're expanding it out from just the readers of books into practitioners out there. So it'll get out quicker and faster, going back to the whole idea how quick things are nowadays.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry. I just was able to get connected again. I had to go to another PC actually and drop things and come back. But I love this continuous learning culture because truly from a leadership as well as from a team standpoint, we're learning and growing together. So we have that combined approach to be able to continue to grow. I know one young wise man said that if you're moving, you're improving. And so to be able to move together as a team is just awesome to see. I mean, sometimes it can happen organically, but we need to make sure that we foster that environment so we can continue learning together. And when it's orchestrated, it's just such a beautiful thing to see.
Shonda, not to put you on the spot, but I think one of the things that we have in common is our love for the inspect and adapt event. Do you want to talk about that mechanism and how it sort of cultivates a learning culture within this framework?
Oh, absolutely. So I really appreciate that particular event because it gives you the opportunity to take a look and see what we've done together as a team. It's also an area where we can do a little improvement when it comes to taking a look at any problem areas that we have as a team. Can I do some problem solving workshops and then to be able to see that actual improvement with the team? Everybody has a voice, and it's important that everybody is heard and be able to work together on that solution. Because you know, if you invest in something, it becomes personal, and then you actually be able to deliver that. So along with that problem solving workshop, of course, we have metrics that we kind of measure how we're growing together and actually how we're delivering together. So I really appreciate that workshop. It offers a lot, and most people enjoy it as well. Give you a chance to innovate together.
Bingo. I can't believe it, but understanding that we have a panel of Agilists on the call, we have protected our time box. We have introduced and touched on all 7 core competencies. And what I'll do now is monitor the Q&A screen to see if we have any questions or answers. With that said, I don't see anything loaded. Let's give folks about 10 more seconds to see if any open questions pop up in the chat. Cool. So we'll continue to monitor. I'll continue to monitor this as we talk about next steps. That being, please keep in touch, right? If you are a leader in your organization that is looking to implement new ways of working that is wholly customer centric and may change the status quo, please feel free to reach out. Our diversity of talent and thought leadership is something that I am incredibly proud of from a BCforward perspective, and I know that we can bring value to your enterprise as you look to thrive in this digital age. Again, thank you for attending. I hope that you found the past 51 minutes to be as valuable as I have enjoyed them. Thank you to my fellow panelists, and I hope that everyone has a wonderful afternoon. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Patrick.
Great job.
Patrick.